Hi, good afternoon to all the viewers. Today we've got some special guests, some of the innovators of the metaschooling group. In person, Stephen Hope from C Learning and Mudassir Haq from Reed Metaschool and the Metaschooling group. I would say the three people here today are the brainchild and the support network of our online school. And after many of the discussions that we've had and ideas and brainstorming, we've now come thus far to have an operational school. And today we're going to be discussing the formation of the school, the vision of the school, what we've done to get where we are, and what we intend to do moving forward to progress and bring our vision to life. Stephen has actually been an absolute guide in what we're doing and is there to keep us on track, as the vision that we've had was something that was different, something that was very, very appealing, something that all three of us believed is an absolute need in today's education and the deliverance of today's education. But as you're aware, when going into an enterprise or starting a business or doing anything, you can easily get swayed off track. So we have regular sit downs and meetings to discuss and make sure that our vision stays very much alive. And today's podcast is going to be speaking of that vision and our intentions as to what we aim to deliver to our students and how our teachers are to deliver, how the school is to deliver, and also grow to become a global school. And I believe and I hope that today's discussion shows our true intentions and our aspirations for the school as it develops, and it being a school which is not the traditional school. It's a school rather challenging the norms, but really taking advantage of the technologies that are available today, looking at the pitfalls and the disadvantages of the current education system, and then delivering something which is not the normal education, but will cater and prepare our students for the world of work, for the GCSEs as well, and for any of the other challenges or doors or opportunities that they would need to encounter as growing adults. I'll let Stephen have a few words in regards to how you found us. I mean, we obviously found you. We worked together on a different product, but we developed this relationship, and how you felt it was meeting myself and Mudassir and our aspirations for the school and your input, and how you think we're going and where do you think we're going, and are we on track to fulfilling our vision of a truly immersive school which challenges the traditional schools and is beneficial for the end user essentially.
Yeah, so we came together and just through conversations for something else, really moved on to the conversation around delivering something beyond the shackles of the current education system. I think in my role, so originally a teacher for 13 years and then moved into education leadership and then became CEO of a Google Premier Partner a couple of years ago. I have a sidearm that I've run for 5 years called Edu Futurists, which is a podcast exploring the future of education. And I think the thing excited about me, or what excited me, was the ability to follow the beliefs and values that I still have. The honest conversations around what you are setting out, the vision of the school, but also the ability to keep both of you honest and focused on that. Because when you're setting something up, you can create many, many different things based on what the needs and the requests of the different parents are. And I accept that because they're going to be the people who are investing it and trusting yourself and the school with their son, daughter, or the people that they're responsible for's learning. And it's a massive decision to make, and it's not a light decision. But ultimately, what you both and the rest of the school wanted to set out was something very, very different that was focused on not just can you understand and have the knowledge of a U-shaped valley. Do you understand the simple mathematics that are taught that probably as parents we struggle with because we don't really use them in day-to-day life? As I said, I was a PE teacher, and the majority of my learning and the majority of the work that I do now isn't focused on the grades that I achieved. It's focused on the skills I developed and the understanding and everything else that goes with it. And I think that's what you set out, and that's why I was so inspired to get involved. If it was just a normal online school project, I wouldn't have been interested. But it was something different, and that's why I followed, and that's why I've stayed.
Good. I think what's happened is with us, obviously our relationship's grown. I think the aspirations, well, we had a whole year to play with, to be fair. So we were going to go live September 24. but the demand and our readiness was just absolutely in place for us to go live now. So we're actually now seeing what's on the ground and how our teachers are interacting with the vision. And we mentioned last week, I think, Stephen, where our teachers are obviously from schools in the normal school setting. And I think the challenge that we're facing is for them to absorb our absolute true vision in the immersive studies and challenge it. So it's actually a mindset. And it's not only the teachers, it's our parents as well. So our parents are really very used to a traditional set education. So even with our timetable, we've had to kind of, because they're not confident in our vision, maybe because we need to become maybe more established, but we're challenging the system. And I believe that our vision or our timetable, our ideas of collaborative working, of mixed groups working together and seeing their attainment and then putting them into specific groups in accordance to the attainment. So maybe we have children that finish their GCSEs in year 8 or year 9 even. So I think the challenge here is, and it's important that we address this, because every organization, everything has a soul, a heartbeat, and I think ours is a visionary one, and it is to change the way that the deliverance is being made. So I would say we've got a twofold issue here. One is the teachers, which need obviously an understanding of it, and then training and then experience. And then we've got the parents on the other end. Will they absolutely trust our deliverance of education? Do they get it? How do we get our vision across? And I think this is probably why we're having such a podcast today. So hopefully the parents can see this and say, right, okay, we understand what you're doing, and we've got faith in your ideas, so that the lessons we deliver don't necessarily need to be like a classroom setting, because we're not in a classroom. So these are the two things I believe that are something that we need to address. And we need to have confidence in our parents, so they need to have confidence in us, and our teachers need to have the confidence and understanding of how to change their actual deliverance and become that true immersive experience that we plan to deliver. So these are the things that I want to discuss today, so they get it. So I mean, just to start off with, the timetabling or even the lessons. So what we've done from Reed Meta School, Reed Meta School, the first school that's actually gone live, is we've got a few lessons. So we've kept the traditional style on the timetable for a few lessons, and we aim to change them every half term so they become a little bit more to our vision. But as it stands, we've got a block with it's called immersive studies, and this is where we experiment. This is where we want the lessons to be collaborative. This is where we want to start introducing platforms and learning spacings, maybe even real world applications, or even the interactive augmented reality. So it's the immersive studies is where we're trying to experiment, and hopefully the teachers get an understanding from our deliverance in the immersive studies, and then we want them to start delivering this throughout the curriculum. And I firmly believe, as per our conversations, is that by the end of or the beginning of next academic year, we should actually, our timetable should look very different to what a typical school timetable looks like. And I think it should have a lot more free flow and more emphasis on the students, because as you said, Stephen, and your words are always great to us, and they actually do become a pivotal part of what we do. I think you said last week that the teachers are not the main characters in the lesson. We're far from the main characters in the lesson, and maybe not even the students are the main character. Maybe it is the item that's being taught which is the main character, and everybody else plays into role with it. And it would be nice for you to just elaborate on that, because it did catch me last week, and it would be nice to speak so the teachers can understand that as well.
Yeah, it's probably something that might scare the life out of some of the teachers. That's absolutely cool. You're in a safe space. I think a couple of things. We have to focus on learning rather than the teaching. That's really difficult for a lot of teachers. Our whole system, through teacher education, through the development of our teachers, the practice that they've probably used to, is where therefore they are the focus, and they impart their knowledge and their understanding verbally or through different mechanisms to the students. We may need to throw that out. Why don't we take the Montessori approach, the focus and the way that they deliver in the Nordics? So there's a great book called Finished Lessons, which talks about phenomenon model of learning, where learners don't focus on subjects anymore. They focus on phenomenons or areas. So if they want to learn English and they want to learn technology and they want to learn maths, actually that might be the fact that they're doing that through building a skateboard. or they're doing it by changing a car engine, and they're learning the dynamics of everything else, we still might be shackled by the endpoint assessment and the GCSE or the final goal there. But actually, why is it that we follow the structure of lessons in the same way? Why is it that we follow the scheme of learning that they probably have done for the last 10 years? And I think it will take time, but I think what we collectively as a Free and beyond are trying to focus on is creating that psychological safety where nobody's chastised, nobody's criticised for trying something different. I think we have to create psychological safety to our teachers and psychological safety to our students where it's celebrated to try something different and try and be courageous and be curious and be impatient and all of those things and try and do things a little bit different. And that'll take time. I think rather than creating a lesson where teachers are planning what the knowledge they're going to give to the students, they're creating a topic and they're creating space for the students to learn in different ways from each other, using the internet, using lots of different mechanisms where in an online lesson, they might introduce a topic for 10, 15 minutes. And unless their students come back to them and need them, it might be really, really difficult for a teacher because they might sit there for 40 minutes in silence, just waiting for a student to come back and ask for help. But won't it be great in a year's time or 2 years' time where the students are supported by them so much that they might ask questions and the right questions and they're prompt to do so. But from a period of time, the teachers aren't burning themselves out every single lesson by constantly talking, where they can take a step back and just offer those bits of support on a regular basis in different ways.
I think just to add to Steve's point, our vision is very much to allow the students to demonstrate their own social skills during these lessons. And it's one of our visions as part of our immersive studies is to really develop our online school, which approaches education in a different manner. Now, we are trying our best to educate our teachers to provide that level of exposure in their lessons. And it will take time, don't get me wrong. But I think immersive studies in the context of an online school, from our perspective, is to approach education that seeks deeply and engage with our students and is trying to place our students in the front of the classrooms, and it might be in the form of interactive learning environments. I mean, that's our key approach. Now, unlike traditional online schools, they typically rely heavily on text, and obviously the teachers are at the forefront. What we're trying to do is to involve the learners a lot more through various tools and variety of technologies, shall we say, and hopefully engage them far more. And one of our approaches so far this year, what we found actually is there's a lot of engagement with the students, and they're quite keen to develop their own skill sets through other means, such as podcasts, for instance. I think, and that's been our vision, to get our learners at the forefront, just like we are now, and have them running podcasts where they can socially interact and build that confidence levels there as well. So I think from our perspective, it's bringing that holistic learning approach to our classes, and hopefully that could be something that evolves over time.
I think, even just looking at the results, so we've done a half term now. We've started to get the results in. This was a crucial time for us actually to see the impact of our teaching and learning. And it's amazing, to be fair, Steve. I haven't shared this with you, actually. So the data that we've got and the progression that's taken place is already far superior than what we've got at our bricks and mortar school. So the teachers have spoken to us. We've had an in-depth conversation with every teacher. We've spoken about the curriculum. We've made comparisons with the data to our data, and the teachers are so happy and confident that the progression is superior and the platform is superior. But what I'm seeing is the burnout, what you mentioned there. So I think the teachers are still delivering lessons. And I think they've got this thing in the back of their head where they know that the parents are probably watching, or the parents can understand, and they want to deliver that full lesson, which is an absolute burnout. And I think that this needs to just obviously over time change. And it's not easy delivering a lesson, because it can become very, very teacher heavy, very teacher led. And then you speak for an hour. And at the end of that, you're absolutely burnt out. You're done. So I think with this in mind, the teachers and these changes that need to take place with the data that we've had, so they should now be confident. Hold on a minute, we're actually smashing this. We've proven it. We're confident that the online platform that we are delivering works. So now when you've got something that works, I think the confidence levels are up there. We can now start to bring in some change and start becoming a little bit, like you said, experimentative on, or even confident with the tools of learning. So like you said, project-based learning. Let's throw in something there that's absolutely project-based, which covers mathematics and science at the same time. And the teachers are there to facilitate the learning rather than deliver the learning and the teaching. So I think we're going to start to actually create, and I think I wanted the teachers to do that themselves, but I think as directors or leaders of this, I think we're going to need to get together and start to create schemes of work, but not absolutely bound schemes of work, but schemes of work of some sort which are project-based work, which allow collaboration, which allow research, self-paced learning, and all of these kind of things where there's multiple topic knowledge or subject knowledge rather engaged in that project, where they can go and deliver. They need to do their research and then collaboratively work and get back to us. Because I think one of the other points is social interaction. Us guys, we're socially interacting via technologies, and I think as the world grows or as time progresses, this social interaction becomes a part of society essentially. I think with the collaborative working in the project-based deliverances of our lessons, the children will build on that social skill of working together, working with different age groups, possibly even different teachers or organizations, to create answers to their projects or complete them projects. And then again, these projects will not be teacher led. They will be an idea, a structure, links to maybe places to go, and even introductions to people, signposting certain places and people, and then the students can go off and join teams and go and execute the project. The project will entail mathematics, science, English, technology, and everything else, and it will give them certain skills. And then we've ticked a lot of the boxes that are taught in the curriculum, and we haven't just ticked them. The children have shown that they can actually, use them in a real life application.
Yeah, and a couple of bits just linking to that. We have to have a real reset for all of the stakeholders, the people who are involved in it ourselves. We have to ensure that the students, the parents, the teachers, everybody's involved and has an understanding what the vision is. Education's a really interesting sector because everybody has a view and everybody's been through it. So everybody's been through an education, everybody's had their own experience of education, and that influences, whether that's through bias or unconscious bias, what they perceive education should be, whether they've previously as parents been through the private sector or state sector or this country or external. That will influence what they expect their son or daughter or the person they're responsible for, their experience. And what we're trying to say is we have to just reframe that. We have to create a space. Imagine in our roles, as us three, and probably parents listening and everything else, imagine a day that is split into hours. Imagine going to work where you say, the first 5 minutes, you can have a chat with your colleagues. Then you get an hour to focus on this bit, this activity. Then you've got to move to a different room. Then you go to something else. Then after that, you focus on a different subject. Even if you're getting really immersed in that experience and you're really enjoying that bit and you're doing some deep diving, then we'll tell you when you can go to the toilet. Then we'll tell you when you can have dinner. Imagine a world of work and the world outside of education that was so limiting that that's exactly how you approached each day.
Absolutely.
Why is it that why do we do that? Why do we think that you can only go to the toilet a certain day? And actually we'll tell you when because I guarantee, just before I came on this call, I was like, I'm a little bit hungry. You know what? I don't know if I'll focus enough on this podcast. So I'm just going to have something that's just going to kick a bit of energy in. And I'm just going to have a bar. I'm going to have a strong coffee, which is generally something I have to have as a dad of 2 young children anyway. And I'm just going to have a bite to eat. But imagine for some of our children in a normal education system, they can't get that extra energy boost. They can't rehydrate because they're told, no, you've got to go to these 3-hour lessons and focus on that. And you get a break at dinner time, and that's when you can refuel. What happens if they're tired?
I think, Stephen, that this education system that you're talking about, I personally have got a strong belief, and there's some writing behind it as well, that this bell system, this timetable system, was to get the children prepared for the work the factory life. Do you know the factory life? The bell goes and that's it. You're off to your tea break and you've got to go to the next part of the machine or the next part of the production line. This has actually been, plugged into the tool. And I think it's a changing world. We're no longer in factories with production lines, and we don't go by the bell. And that's not the world of service that we're into now. So I think that education system and that whole timetable drum belling system was actually for the industrial era, where you've got the children that needed to work, or the adults, sorry, that needed to work by the clock. We've exited the industrial phase of our lives, or the country even. We're now at a different service era, and we're now at a different technological era where productivity is not, like you said, is nowhere near done by the timekeeping or by the bell. And like you said, when you get into a deep thought, I've done a podcast recently on GCSE revision. And that deep dive can last 2 hours. You could really be flourishing in that space of concentration, and a bell or a lesson finishing or a time it's detrimental. It really is. And these are exactly that. So I would actually go as far as saying that was preparation for the factory. We're now not preparing for the factory. We're preparing for bigger and better things.
I mean, just to add, I know from the corporate perspective, having been in the industry for so long, it is very much structured based on points that Steve mentioned. But I think, how would I want my children to be brought up in the future? I personally wouldn't want them to follow the same day-to-day structured approach that perhaps I did, introducing elements that gives them a different way of life and also working routine will very much allow them to be better engagers. And I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking to firstly get them into a position, and that's our students, in a position where they can go and away from re-meta school and succeed in life. But what we're trying to do is build them at this stage with opportunities that we have learned from in our past, and actually align our school to deliver a far more engaging and environment for them.
Do you know the companies out there now, the disruptors out there, or the companies that are making big moves? They don't follow that system now. So they actually want individuals that can immerse, that can deliver something at the end of the week or at the end of the month. They don't care how they get there. There's not a timetable they need to follow. They want this product done. Go away, be on your merry way. We're here to support you, and then come back to us with an absolute vision or a change, or have that product finished, or that idea or task complete. And I think this new change, I teach business studies, and the whole platform of industry is changing. And I think this is the way it's leaning, and the leaders are going to be those who go away and do their deep dives and come back with a final product, rather than those who are still used to the let's go by the clock and by the task kind of a way of learning. So this is where I think we're at the cutting edge, or we're at the top end of producing, or we want to be at the top end of producing those children or those workers or those learners that are working in that way already. So they're adapt to it when they get into the workforce, and they're leaders, and then they hopefully get seen to be innovators of new technologies or new ways of working, and then they find their way up or find their way into bigger and better things.
I agree. I think industry, there's so many different variations of it. Just an example, the T levels. T levels are a great step into something different. Having an endpoint assessment as an apprenticeship when you're demonstrating competency isn't always the best thing, and I know it's been introduced now. But the problem with T levels, the problem with apprenticeships and everything else, is actually the type of industry that people are trying to take these placements and everything else is a lot of people are one or two people industries. So they're very, very small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs that might be in the creative. Got some great friends who are in PR and support, but they've only got one or two staff. So how can you then support somebody coming and getting those experiences? And I think that's the thing, where there are big corporates. Let's look at the supermarkets, let's look at the financial industry, look at the FTSE 500, where they've got employees of hundreds and thousands. That's absolutely great. But actually, a lot of the skills and a lot of the things that we're trying to achieve and trying to support our young people with is a world of being a slasher. And when I say slasher, what I mean is that they might be a podcaster / financial expert / a creative / and they do 5 different jobs all at the same time. Because really, when we were, and our parents were in education and going into business, they said, I want to be this. Our students can't say, I want to be this, because a lifetime of a career doesn't really work because it's very, very different now. My chair's pushed down. Don't know what happened there. My hydraulics have gone. But yeah, I think ultimately we're trying to prepare students for, and young people, for what the world is now and also what the world will become, not what it was. And I think what we're asking and what we're kind of putting to our teachers is, what does that look like? How can we do it differently? Take a risk. We'll support you through it. But also what we're asking our parents that are going to listen to this podcast, or we'll ask Madas and Abbas on a regular basis, will say, but I expect it to be this. Just trust in the process. You've brought them to the Reed Meta School and the Reed and the group because you believe that you want your children to be taught or to learn in this way. Just trust the process. It might look different. It might be supportive. But ultimately, what we're trying to achieve is something that doesn't exist and is against the current education system of 9 to 3 and learning in a way and being passive vessels. I think there was a few years ago, there was a research study done where they asked a large number of students which way they thought they learned best. So they had people that were just sitting there absorbing information and been taught to all day, or they had these students who were going through processes and learning in the way that we've taught what we're trying to achieve at Reed Meta. And they said, I think I achieve better by just sitting and listening. That was their perspective because that was their experience and has always been their experience. And also the cognitive load of actually learning and taking the ownership and the autonomy themselves in their own learning rather than just being reliant on somebody talking at them so they can switch off and on and disengage. It actually showed that even their perspective was that being sitting and listening was the best way to learn, and that was their view. It was completely incorrect. Even though they found it more challenging to guide their own learning and be supported and facilitated, the research evidence that actually, even though they found it more challenging because it was new to them, they learned more that way, and that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to improve the learning experiences. We're not trying to make and get 20 great online teachers that just talk to students all day, because ultimately we've changed nothing. We've just created a school that's online that people can access from anywhere, but they're just doing exactly the same as what they've always done if they went into a school and went into 4 walls of a building. Pointless in my view.
And that's it. And that's why I think we actually need to stay on the vision. The vision needs to stay very much alive. We need all of our stakeholders to understand what we're trying to do here. Understand that the outcome, the final outcome being whatever boundaries they might be. For example, you've got the GCSEs. They'll be ready for the GCSEs. We want to get them to a state of deeper learning, more important, more meaningful learning, where they look at the book, they look at a GCSE, I think I might have a GCSE book here actually, where they look at a GCSE textbook or an exercise book, say, well, this is not no problem. I get this, I can understand this, and I can pass the exam. So it's not just the exams that we're working on the whole learning experience. We're working on an absolute change in the deliverance of education, and we are, like you said, we're treading on new surfaces here, so we want to really take them risks. We need you guys to be confident with what we're doing. We need you on board, and I don't mind sharing this vision with you again and again until you truly understand it. And we're building data and we're building figures that show that what we do is effective already. Within the first 6 weeks, you can make direct comparisons, and it's already effective. When we stop becoming effective, or when the effectiveness something starts to diminish, we can relook at it. But at the moment, we are well on the way to really producing something special, and changes will take place. Every half term, you'll see a different change, and you'll see the teaching styles change as we deliver and we develop our staff. You'll see differences in the way that, the lessons are being delivered, what the children are doing at home. And we hope for you to see something that you've never seen before. Your kids are busy off with project-based work, talking to peers in their classrooms, on their laptops, and really gathering bits together. We want to see a change, and we're pushing for change. Be confident with our vision. And again, this is just one avenue of us to showcase this, and we can do this all day long, because a vision or creating a vision is not easy. It's difficult, especially when you've got so many stakeholders at very important parts of their lives trying something new. It's the tried and the tested works. What we're delivering works. We're now going to scale it up. We're going to level up to a different level and start slowly putting in changes. And we're confident that these changes are going to have an impact on the transformation of the education system and the impact of learning of relevant materials for our pupils. And we believe that slowly but surely we are well on our way there. And it will be nice to get this vision to life as we grow.
Brilliant. And one thing I would like to add is that we are also very keen listeners. We listen and we take feedback. One of the key things that we've really achieved over the last 6 weeks is we've listened to our teachers, we've listened to our parents and students, in fact, as well. And that's something that we feel very strongly about, that this online school is a community. You know, we're here to help our families, we're here to engage our learners and develop them, but at the same time take this feedback so we can also enhance this offering for our school and the globe, because ultimately we want to be delivering this globally so that this vision can be applied to any country and to any student, and we believe that we'll get there. And so far, you know, the last first half term has in our honest opinion gone extremely well. And as Abbas has mentioned, you know, the feedback we've got and the results so far have demonstrated that. So for us, let's continue this vision and work collaboratively to get there as well.
Excellent.
So I think that will conclude this podcast for today. Any last words, Steve, from yourself before we close this podcast?
I think I go back to parents. As a parent myself, the vision is that when the kids come home, or when they are home and you come home from work and you've seen that they've been learning for the day, that you don't ask them and you say, "What have you done today?" and they say, "I can't really remember." Switch the conversation up and say, "What have you loved and that you've learned today?" And if they can come back and say, "Oh, I've absolutely loved this," I think we're achieving something, because we want to inspire a love of learning, not just going through day to day of absorbing information.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for your time today, Steve. And we look forward to having another podcast very soon. Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
Bye-bye.